So it looks like we're getting a new Marvel Legends Morph action figure, but how does this one compare to all the other releases, and is this one worth your money? Be sure you stick around until the end, soulmates, because we're going to talk about what X-Men characters we want to see in this line next. If you support what I do, please click subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss a single video of mine when it comes out. For anyone who's not aware, Morph was originally a character named Changeling who debuted back in X-Men 35 way back in 1967, and he's notable because he's one of the first X-Men to die in the line of duty. Well, fast forward 25 years and Morph appears in X-Men the Animated Series, and this time he's not Changeling, of course, he's Morph as we all know him now. He was intended to be a sacrificial character from the very beginning, and the creators wanted to use Changeling, but they couldn't use the name anymore because of DC Comics, so instead they renamed him Morph. Because of his popularity on X-Men the Animated Series, of course, Morph got an action figure from Toy Biz way back in the day, and that one came with a few extra heads as would be expected back in the 90s. But aside from that, the only action figure Morph's had in recent memory is the one from the Sugar Man wave that was based on the Age of Apocalypse storyline. But now comes a Marvel Legends Morph based on X-Men the Animated Series. And how does he stack up? Well, he's okay at first glance. When I first noticed him, I thought that he was pretty okay, but as always, I like to wait a little bit and look it over and compare it with the source material to see how accurate of an action figure we're in fact getting. One of the things I like about this one is that he actually has molded legs. That really surprised me. I thought that they were just going to slap on a piece of plastic on a standard Marvel Legends leg and call it a day, but it does appear to be a new piece, and it hides the articulation at the thigh very well. Another thing I like about this one is the evil Morph head sculpt. I think that it looks really on point, and boy, it looks like Morph after he finally reappears on X-Men the Animated Series. Ironically, I really don't like the normal Morph head sculpt on this one because he looks a little too angry, and it doesn't really look like Morph from the TV series, I don't think. Also, his hair is not the right color because when you look at Morph in episode 1, he's got black hair, right? And they've got black hair on the other head, so I don't know why they just gave this one brown hair. It's not right. Judging by the torso, it looks like there's some pretty heavy reuse on this one. It looks like the arms belong to Gambit and the torso belongs to somebody, but it definitely is an older sculpt because you can see that there's an ab crunch there, but there's no torso swivel or torso cut. And I can't say who the jacket belongs to off the top of my head, but I know that it doesn't belong to Morph. We'll get to that in a second, but first let's talk about the cell shading. Now, the cell shading has been toned down a little bit on this one, but it still looks awful. They really just need to get rid of it because it looks like the shading is just applied haphazardly all over the action figure. There's just one shadow that's going off to the side of his jacket, and then there's another shadow just going down the fronts of his sleeves, and other shadows that are going off to the sides of his legs and his boots, and it just looks like whoever applied this shading was drunk. Of course, we do have to talk about the inaccuracies because it is supposed to be based on X-Men the Animated Series. And first off, there's the hair. All they had to do was go back to the first episode of X-Men, Night of the Sentinels Part 1, and watch it, and Morph in multiple scenes has black hair. This is really basic stuff. You literally just have to start watching the TV series. And aside from that, why is his main head sculpt so angry? Because when you see Morph for the first time, he's a pretty jovial character. He laughs, he jokes, he's a clown. He doesn't really take anything seriously. So why he looks like he does here, it doesn't make sense. Also, a major issue with this one is the inability to take off his coat, because Morph in the first episode of X-Men the Animated Series doesn't wear a coat all that much. He wears a generic X-Men costume that doesn't cover his forearms, and I know they can do removable arms on a Marvel Legends action figure because they did it on Moira McTaggart. And speaking of his coat, the coat he's wearing here is really inaccurate, because on X-Men the Animated Series, for one, he has elastic on his sleeves, and he has elastic at the bottom of the coat. And not only that, but his pockets are wrong too, because on the show, he has flaps where his pockets should be on the front, and also he's got 2 additional pockets at his breast. But on this action figure, there's a complete absence of pocket flaps. He doesn't have any at his breast, and he just has normal pockets at his sides there. And this is a little nitpicky, but the collar on the action figure has some texture on it that is not present on the show, but I'd be willing to let that one go because I do think that the texture on this looks pretty nice. Another thing that's inaccurate on this one is the collar of his costume. It only goes to the base of his neck on the animated series, but here it goes all the way up to the base of his skull, and it's not right. His neck should be exposed here. Aside from that, it looks like the other details on this one they got right, and that's nice because the past couple of action figures they've revealed have been very inaccurate. And this one does have its share of inaccuracies, but for what it's worth, it's not as bad. I think the main disappointment for a lot of people on this one is that he doesn't come with any extra heads other than his own. And considering it's Morph, you probably want some extra heads. But for me, I don't think that this is as big of a deal as people are making out to be, because the heads on Marvel Legends these days are pretty removable. So it's not that hard to take an extra head here or there, or pop a head off of some character and place it on Morph. What would be nice is if they gave us the head of someone who hasn't really gotten an action figure, like Senator Kelly perhaps. So do I think this one is worth $28? Not really. You're not getting a lot with it. You're really just getting a head, you're getting a couple of hands, and you're getting the action figure. And the VHS packaging, of course, which I guess is a selling point for some people, but I'm not that impressed by it. Now that we've gotten Morph, what X-Men character do you want to see from X-Men the Animated Series next? Personally, I really want to see Beast. Beast is kind of a favorite character of mine. He always has been, and I would love to see what they do with him and how he looks on the final product. Well, Soulmates, what do you think of this new Marvel Legends Morph action figure? Is this one that you like? Is this one that you have to have? Or are you a little turned off by it and maybe you notice the lack of accessories and the inaccuracies that I noticed? I don't know, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think of it, and be sure to let me know what X-Men character you want to see next. I would love to hear from you. If you want to know more about the last X-Men the Animated Series toy that was revealed, you can check out my Jean Grey video here.